Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Women's Wednesday. I know it's been a few weeks since I've been on the show, but I'm excited to be back here. And I'm really excited about my upcoming guest. I've got Sunny and Karin from VagaBroads. I'm going to get it. I tried to say VagaBroads. Yeah, I got it. Give me just a moment. I'll have them on the show. Hi, guys. I completely butchered your names.
That's all right. That's all right. How's it going?
It's going good. So for those people who don't know about you guys, because I've been following you guys on Instagram for a little while, which your guys' travels have been absolutely astounding. Definitely one of my idols here. Tell everybody a little bit about yourselves.
I'll start. I usually do. I talk a little bit more than Karin does. My name's Sunny. We both live in Nashville, Tennessee. That's where we're home based. I am a lawyer when I'm not traveling, and this is my wife, Karin. And together, a couple years ago, we started traveling in our 80 Series Land Cruiser, and we took 2.5 years and did Mexico, Central America, the United States, and a little bit of Canada. After that, we started with some friends running women's trips in Costa Rica, where we would get a bunch of adventure vehicles and take women down for 10-day trips. And since that time, we got a little slowed down with the pandemic, but we've been doing some small trips throughout the U.S. and we have a few things coming up.
That's exciting.
Yep. And I'm Karin. Hi. In my real life, I do IT, but other than that, love to travel and did the same trip with Sunny.
So what got you guys started in overlanding?
It's a good question. Karin's always been into cars, for sure, but not the overlanding community. I'm not sure either of us had even heard that word before just a few years ago. For us, it didn't start out about overlanding at all. It started out about trying to do something different with our lives, getting away from what had become just a very standard day-to-day of working, coming home, watching TV, and going to bed. And we knew we couldn't do that anymore. A few years ago, I think it was 2014, around there, Karin developed a very, very rare and strange health condition that I would like to let her tell you about, but she tends to go into more detail than anybody else.
I can do a little I basically had this thing called Eagle syndrome, and it's where your bones grow from here to here, from your skull to your neck. And it was weird, so I had to get them taken out. It caused all kind of problems. So we basically decided after a couple surgeries that life is too short. So we decided to go just to get out of here.
Well, and I guess I'll give a little more detail than you did. I think that was my fault. But to get to that diagnosis, our lives were really turned upside down for a year. Essentially, we went to bed, being successful at our jobs and doing what we do. And then we woke up one morning and Karin was virtually debilitated. It was life altering for us. And a year of 26 doctors and not really knowing what was going to happen and getting some pretty terrifying diagnosis along the way woke us up. It's made us start to ask the question of what if we only had 6 months left together? What if we only had a year left? How would we want to spend it? And we knew that we did not want to spend it the way that we were doing it then, where every single day looked exactly the same and every single week looked exactly the same. So we started talking about that. And I'm a huge traveler. I've grown up traveling. We, at that point in time, I think to escape some of the daily lives we were talking about, we had been taking a ton of vacations, more than we should have.
We kept extending them. We'd go like 8 days, 9 days, 12 days. This kept going.
Which at some point also impacts your work life and your time with your friends and things like that. But we were just running from our daily lives. So we started asking the bigger question: how can we make a change, or what would we want to be doing? And I kept thinking, one of the places that we had taken a vacation was Costa Rica. And we really loved it. There was just something about it that spoke to both of us. And so we started asking ourselves if we should just go there and live for a few months. And we started to explore that. We also have a dog, and we would want to take our car. And so we talked about shipping our car there. And then we talked about, could we drive there? And the trip morphed a few different times. We talked about doing a worldwide backpacking trip, but then, maybe we're a little bit too old to live the hostel life day to day for a year. And, we kept coming back to Costa Rica, and we kept coming back to somehow getting our car there.
Mm-hmm.
So then we started looking at a map. And, you look at a map between here and Costa Rica, and there's a lot of pretty terrifying countries, at least with what we believed then. Now, what we believe now has changed a lot. But back then, we look at this map and we see El Salvador and Honduras and Mexico, Nicaragua, right? And we're 2 women, and there's no way we're going to drive there and do this trip. So then we started doing more research, and we thought we could ship our car into Belize, because for some reason in our minds, Belize was the safest of those countries, which seems really funny now. And so we did that. We started talking about that and sort of developed a plan. And Karin bought an 82 Scrambler, which was her first bright idea of a vehicle we were going to take down to Central America, because we didn't know what we were doing. We had no idea what this required. In our minds, we were going to get a Jeep and drive through the jungles. I don't know.
Yeah, I had experience with Jeeps. I knew them, and I figured if it broke down on the road, I could figure it out. So that was our first thought, but it's pretty bumpy.
And not the best for a long-term traveling trip of this kind, even for just outfitting. So we found this group on Facebook, the Pan Am Travelers group. And my first question in the group was, does anybody know about shipping your car to Belize and then driving the rest of the way to Costa Rica? And immediately I start getting blown up with, what are you doing? Why are you skipping Mexico? What are you afraid of? And I started saying to the group, the same things we've been talking about. Look, we're 2 women. We're not looking for dangerous adventure. We're looking for adventure, but we're not trying to get killed. And into my DMs popped one of the women, Victoria, who I will never forget for this. And she just said, look, everyone in that group has done this trip. She said, we've been through Mexico 100 times, and we have met all kinds of women traveling on the road. It would be tragic for you to miss out on driving through Mexico. It is just something that you won't even know that you needed until you start doing it. So we started doing more research, and I talked to Karin about it, and we had a lot of conversations. And somehow the decision was just made. We just decided that's what we were going to do. And from the beginning of that plan until launch, it was 6 months.
Okay.
And in that 6 months time, we bought a more equipped vehicle. We bought a Land Cruiser 80 Series in 97, and there were a lot of reasons for that we could talk about later that we chose that car. We sold every single thing we owned, every single thing. Things that were stupid.
Everything. Everything.
Right. I don't know why we didn't think we would be coming back and needed any of those things, but we sold everything, every pot, every pan, every fork, every sock. If it didn't fit in that vehicle, we didn't take it.
Yep.
And some of the idea for this was, our dog could come with us, and we looked into all of those requirements as well. And we got a rooftop tent. We were following Desk to Glory, another really popular Instagram account.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no one I wanted to be more than Rich and Ashley of Desk to Glory. I mean, I wanted to do it exactly like they were doing it. And I started messaging Rich, and he was very generous with his time and advice. And people always say that Instagram marketing doesn't work. I am here to tell you that it does. Because they had a CVT tent, we got a CVT tent. They had Max Tracks on their vehicle, we went and got Max Tracks. I mean, we did all the things. That stuff works. And we got it outfitted, and we learned as much as we could. And I don't know, what was it? Around November, I think, is when we planned on crossing the border.
Yeah. It didn't end up being that soon.
No, right before we were going to leave, our dog got sick, and that was kind of the first big delay on the trip. And she got very sick. She ended up having a form of cancer. And, so then it became a whole nother set of questions.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a safe trip for her to do? How do we do this with her? This is our kid. It sounds silly, but this is our kid. And so we reached out again to the traveler community, and across the board, they all said, you're going to be able to get her care just as good, if not better, for 1/100th of the cost the moment you cross the border.
Okay.
So we took her to our local vet, and, we did enough to get her incredibly healthy. And the vet actually said, I think she's good. You just need to get her checked again right before you cross the border. So in California, make sure everything's good, and then you'll probably be all right. But that delayed us some. So now we're getting into December, but we're without a house now. We've got to go. We got to go.
Now we're just spending money on hotels on the way there.
Right. And I should also note that before we left, though, we went on this. Every day that we delayed, there was more gear we thought we needed.
Right.
So our living room was just filling up with gear. And I don't know what we thought we were going to do. Some of the things that we had were ridiculous.
Yeah, we had like a mosquito head net and like the gaiters and all
the snake bite prevention, like
always.
pant gaiters. We had, I don't know what we thought we were doing. But when it came to pack the car, most of that stuff was not going to fit easily. Mm-hmm. And so when we left, it was like the Clampets. I mean, we had stuff tied to every part of that vehicle, inside and outside. There was no moving around in it. You couldn't see. Our dog was, just packed in.
It had like a little circle.
This was not practical
in
any way. But we finally got in the car and we headed west. And that was the start of it. I don't know how much time we took getting to California. I don't think it was very long.
Yeah, I don't think it's too bad. But once we were in California, that was a different story, of course, because California was beautiful and we didn't leave California. And it was like our last safe space.
Right. And it was we had been working so hard up to that point. It was our first feeling of freedom in a really long time. And we didn't own anything. We weren't tied at anything. We didn't have to be at work. We weren't answering to anyone in California, and you tie that with a little bit of fear still of crossing the border. And we just hung out in California for almost 2 months, which was tremendously expensive to do. This was not what we had planned for. Yeah. And at some point we realized we were really going to eat into our actual trip budget if we did that. The other thing I should note, neither of us were really campers. Karin had camped, I think, a couple times in her life.
Yeah.
I had never camped before that. I don't know why it didn't occur to us to actually try it out before we got on the road.
I think it occurred to us. We just never had the time. We just didn't. We were working at the time, like right up to the trip. And then we just never took the time to go out and practice.
You guys are too busy hoarding the supplies in your living room.
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
Gotta get the gear.
Exactly.
You gotta get the gear. I mean, yeah, there's this great episode of Portlandia that's all about gotta get the gear, and they're just flying her. And this was us all day long.
Totally.
But I think we were heading out to California, and I was starting to get anxiety. And I said to Karin, "What if I hate it? What if I am not a camper? I mean, we have planned to camp for the next year of our lives in foreign countries. What if I hate it?"
Right.
And at the time, I wasn't even my healthiest. I wasn't very physically fit at all. I mean, at all. Which actually, we can talk about later, but even impacted our trip at the beginning. I just wasn't my best. So I was worried about the physical exertion of doing the tent every day. And what if we broke down on the side of the road? What if we had to change a flat and all the things? But so all this led up to some real pre-border anxiety and just delay. But then finally the day came. It was right after New Year's. Because I think we spent, I want to say we spent New Year's in California. I don't know what we did. I have no idea what we did. I don't know. It seems so long ago, but I think it was right after New Year's. We were like, finally, to hell with it. Let's do this. Mm-hmm. Let's just do it.
You just picked a date and went.
Yeah. And so we headed south and landed in Baja. And that's really where our story truly began, were those first days in Baja, and just everything we thought maybe we knew, we didn't.
Mm-hmm. Everything.
It's
like the moment we crossed over, I could tell there was a different style of driving, and there were different traffic rules. And of course, everyone spoke Spanish. There wasn't this gradual transition into English. Like right. And it was an eye opener. And also the day that we decided to cross, there was like, it was El Nino or something came through.
It was a terrible hurricane.
Oh no.
So we couldn't actually go the interstate route that we had planned. Well, it's a highway that we had planned to go. So we had to go the opposite way. And on this other unknown road. And we ended up driving at night, which was the number one rule not to do.
Also what that meant, because we hadn't tested any of our systems, was we didn't know that the second we crossed the border, we would lose all cell service.
Right. Totally.
The very second. So we had and our GPS that we had spent all this money on also didn't pick up any maps. It just wasn't working. Nothing was working. So we didn't even know where to go. You know, the main road that we planned on going, the one all the way down, was completely washed out and blocked off.
Yeah.
So now we're in Mexico. We have crossed. We don't know where we're supposed to go, and it's getting dark fast.
Right.
But, you know, just like anything else, you just figure it out. I mean, you just do. You know, we knew which way was south, and we knew that was our goal. We knew what general direction Ensenada was, and that was where we were going.
Yeah.
But that was the very, very long answer to how we ended up on the road.
But I like the answer because you guys explained all the mistakes that you guys discovered for people who are just beginning. And it's very intimidating thinking about crossing the border. My husband, who has commented on here, "See, we need to go," is bound and determined that we are going to go to Baja. We've got some friends that have gone like 3 times now, and they always rave about it. And the photos are amazing. And I'm like, I want to go, but it's Mexico. And it's that same mindset of it's Mexico. You know, you always picture just the horror stories that you see on the news. You know, we're traveling with 2 kids, a 13-year-old and a 10-year-old, and they're not always the most observant people in the world. I love them, but they're not. So you always have to be very self-aware. And it's just extremely intimidating to me. But hearing your guys' stories about it is comical, and I love it. It's so brutally honest.
But let me tell you, one thing about, you said a couple things. Traveling with kids, first of all, you had no idea how many families were out on the road.
Yeah,
it's an incredible number of traveling families out there. Also Baja is a great training ground. I disagree with people some when they say they call Baja Mexico 101. I think that's true in that it's a great intro course, but it's a great intro course, not because it's the easiest part of Mexico, but because you're going to use all the skills. You're going to get trained in every way that you need to. You're going to encounter all the different types of weather and all the different types of terrain. You're going to have areas that are really well equipped with lots of campgrounds and lots of people, and then really remote areas where there's no campgrounds and no gas. So I say it's 101 in terms of training, but frankly, mainland Mexico in many ways was a lot easier.
Oh yeah, there were cities and just everything you need on a day-to-day basis. You know, it was funny because every time we went somewhere, someone would say, "Oh, you've got to stock up. You've got to get everything before you go to the next country or before you go to the next town." And
there was always the pre-border stock up,
right?
The panic,
like,
the panic runs.
You know, what if they don't have tampons?
Right. Lo and behold, they do.
Right. Oh yeah, they're people. Everybody's, they're living. They're like functioning adults. Everybody's the same. So.
Right. But Baja was also really important for us. And there is never going to be a part of our trip as special as those first weeks in Baja. There were countries and places we liked better, but there's nothing like those first days as a brand new overlander figuring all this stuff out. It's just this part of my heart that just explodes when I think about it, because I felt so incapable. I did not feel mentally ready or physically ready. And Baja gets you there. And I also want to say we got really lucky. Remember, I had no camping experience at all. And you should have seen the episode of Three Stooges the first couple of times that we tried. And we had a great tent, love our CVT tent, but we went a little overboard with what we needed. And we got the annex and we had all these things. That's all a lot of work when you're trying to do it every single day.
Right.
It was very discouraging for me at first. It was just, I was physically exhausted and we were filthy, and I'm messaging Rich of Deaths to Glory as if it's their fault. We did it your way. This isn't working. What are we supposed to do? And Rich is like, I don't know, maybe go back to the States and try something. That's not an option, right? Well, I posted a few times just kind of all of my stress about this trip, because we talked a lot every day about what was happening. And this wonderful family, the Bells, Graham and Louisa and their 2 kids reached out and they said, hey, we're in Baja. And we are doing a house sit at this beautiful ranch in the mountains of Baja. We want to help you guys out. If you can just get here, if you can just find the will inside to get here, spend a few days with us, and we're going to get you sorted out and teach you all the things that you don't know. And, this was our first big thing. Karin was resistant a little bit at first because who are these people? We don't know them, right?
Like just some randoms. Yeah.
Just some randoms on the internet. And I had done most of our social media Overlander connecting. That's really not her scene. That's mine.
And one thing I was going to say, like, I would have done it differently. I would have probably been very isolated and just gone and experienced the solitude of the whole experience. But I'm so glad that Sunny ended up doing the social media reach outs, because the things that we got to experience from those reach outs, it was amazing. I mean, we got to go to all these different places, meet people, and they took us, I don't know, they just showed us everything that we needed to know. Not only the bells, but like a variety of people along the way.
It was a different type of community and a different type of connection to people than we were used to at home. But I'm so glad that we went up there, because I was ready to throw in the towel. I mean, we'd been in Baja for a week and it was miserable for us that first week. And Karin managed to injure herself in the first week. And it was a whole thing. But we go up to Baja Dark Skies where they are, and they are hilarious. There are a couple of South Africans who've been living on the road for a decade. There's nowhere in the globe they haven't gone. There's nothing they haven't seen. And they saw us coming a mile away.
Oh, my husband's saying that he would love to meet them. They're assuming he follows them as well.
They are incredible people.
Awesome. Yeah.
Incredible people. Hilarious to have a beer with. But they see us pull up in our Clampett vehicle with stuff tied all over the car, And day one, it was vehicle clean out day. That was the first thing they put on our agenda. They said they were going to get rid of everything that we didn't need in that vehicle, and they were going to reorganize us. And they put a couple of tarps on the ground. They ended up having to pull out a third.
Yeah. They started with one, and they were like, oh, looks like we need another tarp. And then here comes
they could not believe all the stuff that would fit into that little Land Cruiser. But Louisa started making fun of us as she pulled different things out. Like, what are you going to do with this ever? Where are you taking this? And just getting rid of stuff left and right, which was, we pulled off of there feeling a million times better just in terms of our space and functionality.
We were lighter.
We were so much lighter. And they taught us the things we didn't know about how to open our tent and how to close it easily. And now we take that for granted. We could do it with our eyes closed. But back then, this was a game changer. I mean, this went from it being miserable to each of us having a job, having a duty. We had a routine. We developed it very quickly, and it made it easy. We knew exactly how much time it took to set up, to take down, which was a really important skill later on as you're timing your day to be set before dark. So that changed our whole trip. We are eternally grateful for them. We spent 3 or 4 days up there.
Yep. Some of the coldest days of our lives.
It was so
snowing.
cold.
It was literally snowing when we got up there.
We didn't expect that. Right.
Yeah.
We didn't expect that in Mexico. We didn't bring that of all the gear we brought. We did not bring winter gear.
Yeah. Just so high, the altitude.
Right. But so we go down and we felt so much more equipped. And then we started camping on our own, and it was a totally different experience.
That's awesome.
We spent the next 6 weeks doing all of Baja that we could fit into 6 weeks. That was our first other, surprise, as we traveled much slower than we planned.
Right.
In our minds, this was all a 9-month trip all the way to Patagonia, and only 2 weeks of it were in Baja. So here we are 2 months in now, and we've only done California and Baja, and that's it. And 6 more weeks, we make our way down south, and then we finally cross into mainland. And, the thing about Mexico, it wasn't just Mexico, but it's like Karin said, every single country, no matter how long you've done it, always comes with nerves, brand new nerves.
Right.
And so this was our next big hurdle for us, is mainland Mexico, because in our mind, Baja, it's Mexico 101. And all kinds of people, usually Americans and Canadians, are what we camped with mostly throughout Baja. But now we're going to where the cartel live. That was our brains at the time.
I'm not disagreeing with you because that's where my brain goes too. It's just, wow.
Right. But I will never be someone to say that these places are safe and that that's all a myth. What I will say is that our experience as travelers in these places is very different than those of locals who grow up there and experience all these things day to day. But for us, Mexico is one of the safest places I've ever been in my life.
Oh, everybody's just selling fruit on the side of the road, or like selling bread, or just having family time. Everyone was really close,
and we did our diligence too. I mean, we would check in with other travelers, we would check in with different alerts. We did learn to largely ignore the US travel warnings, but we started looking at them for other country alerts. The US travel warnings, not that I'm saying they're completely useless, but it would be, something that actually happened when we were on our way back, because we drove down to Panama and then back up again. So we experienced all these countries twice. But we were in Sonora on the way back, having coffee and getting our nails done. And our phones blow up with these U.S. travel alerts. Danger, stay out of Sonora. All Americans shouldn't be no. And we're sitting here looking around at the ladies who lunch in Sonora, at this quiet little town, just reminding ourselves yet again that it's just different as a traveler going through, and your perspective's just a little bit different. And, as one of your commenters said, I think that's right. Not to say these things don't exist, but your commenter said cartels don't want to mess with travelers. It gets them on the radar. I think that's absolutely correct. I think that's right. In fact, we encountered quite a bit of cartel, honestly, but it was usually we'd be at a restaurant and there'd be a cartel meeting happening at a table next door. And you knew that's what it was from all the bodyguards and the nice cars outside and things like that. Sometimes we got invited to parties. Sometimes we got invited to dinner. Lots of travelers have stories like that. Honestly, again, not saying there's not danger involved, but for us, it added sometimes a layer of safety is what it felt like, because that kind of attention is just not what anybody wanted, and that is also something else that I want to speak to. We had a big discussion. Our car, if you've seen our Instagram at all, you know that our car is a little ostentatious.
I don't know. I'm still picturing you guys loaded up with like ratchet straps and stuff, just piled on top of each other.
We were better after Baja.
We were better after Baja, but we were still quite the sight to see.
I can imagine.
We have a bullhead that we found on a mountain in Tequila, Mexico, strapped to the front of the vehicle. We've got our website and big old letters on the front of the car, all these flags. We were a sight to see, but we really worried about that. For a while, we kept asking ourselves, like, should we be laying lower? Should we be finding a way to not attract so much attention when we come into towns? But then what we realized pretty early on in Baja was that attracting attention wasn't really a bad thing. It meant a lot of eyes were on us at any point. There were always a lot of people checking out the car and walking around it and, asking about our dog and talking to us. We made a lot of friends because of it. So I actually felt the attention we attracted made us a little bit safer.
Okay.
And the bells taught us a lot of things about just road etiquette too, and road karma. Instead of rolling up your windows, and when you go through new towns, our windows were down and we were waving and saying hello to everyone when we came into new towns and really trying to get the lay of the land. But that really worked for us. But so we head down south of Baja and we're ready to cross over into mainland Mexico. And then we did one of the coolest experiences of my life. I don't know if Karin puts it in her top 5 of adventures, but it is definitely in mine. We rode the cargo ferry across the Sea of Cortez from Baja to mainland Mexico.
Okay.
And now let me paint a picture for you, because this sounds okay. So you rode a car ferry across this bay. No, this was a 16-hour trip with 100 Mexican truckers and all their semis and a bunch of cargo trucks carrying chickens and fruit.
Oh, God.
In the pitch black of night on an open deck on the ocean.
Okay.
And it was amazing.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
It was. We got some micheladas and just hung out. Put some movies on our laptop during the ride. But going to the bathroom was an adventure because you had to literally climb up this ladder all the way up to the top deck where the bathrooms were, but the wind was just rushing. I mean, there was nothing. If you fell, you're gone. You're gone.
And if anybody knows
lights.
anything about the Sea of Cortez or Baja, that wind is no joke.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
you're hanging on for dear life onto that ladder. But, we were the only 2 women on that entire ship, except for the couple of crew members who were female.
Mm-hmm.
And even that was intimidating, So our first instinct, of course, is to get in the car and lock it and stay there all night long. We got 100 Mexican truckers on this thing. We could be thrown overboard. No one would ever know what happened to us. Somebody commented, it sounds like a party. It was. Yeah. It was such a good time. And we woke up the next morning, and the sweetest Mexican trucker brought us coffee, and we hung out on the deck, and in our very, very, very broken Spanish and his very broken English, we sat and talked about his family and where he lives in Mexico. And he gave us some suggestions for the mainland. And I will never forget that night. I felt like Indiana Jones the whole time.
That's awesome.
It's just one of those moments where now we're really doing this. And so we get to mainland, and it's fine. It's actually, in many ways, I thought mainland was much easier than Baja.
Yeah. Baja was just different. It was very like rural. It was basically like you're in the country versus the city. So mainland Mexico, I mean, there's definitely rural places there, but as far as like you would be able to hit cities all the way across or down pretty much in any direction.
And, there will be some people out there, and we've heard it a lot, who said, well, you were only not in danger because you only went to a few places. So we went to what Mexico would consider states. We went to 26 of them. We found ourselves in virtually every single region of Mexico for extended periods of time. So I would completely argue that. I think that, while we were diligent and we were careful about when we went, the places we went, we really avoided very few places. I mean, I think we went northwest, southeast, everywhere you could go, into the mountains. We spent a lot of time in Chiapas. Chiapas is a controversial area for travelers, but we spent a lot of time there. I loved it. In total, we used every single day of our 6-month visa in Mexico. We actually left on the last day of our full visa and headed into Belize. And by then, we had met a lot of overland travelers on the way. We had made tons of friends on trips like these, whether it's just Baja, which Ashley, you and Jeff need to go. You need to do Baja for sure.
Damn it. Every time I talk about this, I get outvoted. It's just more and more for him.
We literally put our hands on a whale in Guerrero Negro. So like it's an unforgettable experience.
You're camping in the salt flats with hearing whales singing in the bay all night long. It's you can't beat it. Yeah. You can't beat it.
Okay.
Yeah, but and in Baja, the first thing you start to realize there. I mean, we talk about it a lot, how small the world is, but this kind of travel makes the world really small, because we started running into the same people over and over again, all over Baja.
Yeah.
I like the spirit, Jeff. Jeff says you're leaving tomorrow.
Awesome.
I like it.
Honey, we got some talking to do first before we just drop everything and leave.
So we had gotten some information about Belize that made us a little bit nervous. Got it last minute. So the other thing that I want to mention, which hopefully won't offend some of your listeners, but it's who we are. We're a queer couple. I mean, we're a lesbian couple. We're married. We've been married for several years. This did factor in to some of our planning and the way that we viewed the trip. We're not a couple who was going to, especially in countries we're not aware. We didn't hang a rainbow flag on our car. That's not who we are. We just kind of are who we are.
Right.
And we actually had intentions of the trip of being relatively closeted, because safety first for us. And we did a lot of things to make ourselves less obvious. But the thing is people are people, and people really pick up on cues that you don't even know you have.
Right.
Mexico was actually super friendly, and we didn't even know it. Mexico was incredibly friendly. It was very progressive. We very rarely felt the need to hide. We made a lot of friends. We found some of our own community.
Yeah, I think the only thing that was uncomfortable was asking at the few hotels we stayed at for a room, and they're like, 2 beds. And we're like, no, one's fine. 2, No, one's fine. No, it's two
Yeah,
of you.
we
two.
learned
It's two
pretty
of you.
quickly to
Like,
take the two
all
beds.
right, fine, we'll have
And
two beds.
that was something that set off danger signals to us. I mean, it definitely, it's those small things, you know, because we don't sleep well at night. So those were things. But so the night before we're heading to Belize, we've got a group of friends that we've been hanging out with. We're very excited about Belize. 6 months in Mexico. Now Belize, people speak English. They use a lot of American money. It's a totally different culture. We're excited about it. And I am doing a little bit of last minute Belize research. And we're actually, speaking of cartel, we're at a campsite outside the border owned by cartel, who are just hanging out and having dinner and hanging, you know, some of our friends went to a party. But we're planning, and I am reading about some very anti-gay laws in Belize that actually really scared me the night before we go.
Oh, no.
Right. And one of them being that they can and will actually jail gay couples who come into their country. Now, it's happened very rarely, but it has happened.
And up to 10 years.
Right.
Really?
Yeah. And we'd gotten pretty comfortable. And the thing is if our website is huge on our vehicle. So it wasn't a matter of we were worried we would tell people. We weren't going to.
Right.
But it would take the smallest internet search to find out who we are.
Mm-hmm.
So I got very panicky about this. And we started, we actually started to scrub our website a little bit and, bring down that fact and scrub our Facebook. And, we did some limited covering of our website. There was just some steps that we took, and we were comfortable going in with friends. And we had a plan of which one of us would pretend to be married to which one of our male friends that were caravanning with us. Belize was different than we expected. Now, don't get me wrong. I love Belize. I would absolutely go back. It is by far one of the most beautiful places that we went. It is stunning.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great camping there. But of all the countries we went to in Central America, frankly, Belize was the most dangerous for us. And not everyone would say that. But for us, it was the only place we actually experienced anything sketchy. And it started immediately. Our very first night camping in a campground called Rainbow Park in the middle of town, right? And we're camping with a bunch of friends, and it was a shiny, happy place. But that night, a couple guys tried to climb our tent. They reached, and thankfully for us, our friends who were camping next to us woke up and came out, which that's something about the Overlander community. These people were our friends, but we didn't know them. We hadn't known them for that long.
Mm-hmm.
And without hesitation, in the middle of the night, they didn't know what these guys were up to. And they got out of their vehicle and put themselves between us in harm's way and made sure that we were awake. And that is this community. And we found that kind of thing on the road over and over again. It's special.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we'll be friends with them for the rest of our lives. But so a couple of different times in Belize, we didn't feel comfortable, and we had a deal. Some of it might have been in our heads too. Look, I had a little bit of bias from that going in.
So, obviously, though, some of it was.
Some of it wasn't. Some of it wasn't. Right. But we really made a deal with ourselves. Early in the trip, but we put it into action in Belize that if either one of us had the smallest instinct or just didn't feel like we could sleep safely, we'd be out there. And in Belize, multiple times, we just made the call and changed campsites just for a variety of reasons.
What did you guys use for security protection though? Because you can't carry a gun across the borders or.
Nope.
So is it literally just depending on the people around you and that inkling?
Well, we had bear spray that we kept in the tent just in case. We also each had a little small thing of pepper spray, but the bear spray sprays really far. I also Sunny wouldn't, we talked about, she didn't want to have it in the tent.
I stand by my decision.
I wanted to get a cattle prod because if somebody comes up the ladder, you can't really pass the cattle prod.
I would be the first person in the middle of the night to accidentally grab this thing or set it off. No, we had very little by way of protection.
And we had our cooking knives. So that's one thing,
down in the car, not up the tent.
Yeah. We had the little things our friend made us these little, it's practically a prison ship.
They look like shanks. He's a knife maker by hobby, and he made us a couple things. But ultimately, though, you don't know what the laws are country to country.
Right.
And, we did get some of the sketchy roadside searches by police in various places. They were always kind of hilarious, though. Nothing ended up being, some of the horror stories that you might hear.
Yeah, we'd end up taking pictures with them, or they'd ask to see like her tattoo or something.
We never had to pay a bribe to any officers. And look, that's not actually a judgy statement. There's a lot of comments out there about never pay a bribe and all that. I'm first to tell you, if it is safety or paying that, I was always prepared to do it as a last resort. So that's not a judgment. We just never had to get to that point. We tried.
Talked our way out.
Right. The Bells had given us all kinds of tips and things to do because they'd seen it all. And they always worked. I mean, really just speaking as little Spanish as possible, as much as necessary. If we were really getting into a place where we're arguing with a cop, I'll tell you one thing that always worked for us. And I don't know how well it would work for heterosexual couples, but for us, the last resort was arguing with each other.
Oh, yeah. They're like, whoa.
Yeah. Nothing to do with these two women arguing with each other in the car. And those young cops in Mexico would always back right off when we started to do that. It always, like I said, it always ended up being kind of hilarious. But you don't know what the laws are, and you don't want to give them a reason.
Right.
So really, anything we had with us, we felt like we needed to be able to categorize it as camping gear. Right. Which is why we elected for things like bear spray and a machete, things like that.
The machete, you can take everyone has a machete. People are riding bikes with multiple machetes. Like there's machete everywhere. So.
I've seen the photo of you guys posing in front of the Land Cruiser, and Sunny, you got it all like,
oh yeah,
you were all excited to have it holding this machete, and it was cracking me up. But
probably the only time I held that thing the whole trip.
Oh no, the machete was great.
Yeah, but yeah, so yeah, weapons weren't really a thing, and I honestly, I know that gets to be a controversial topic too. We didn't meet anyone who brought weapons with them. I mean, you just really couldn't, and I just never felt like we needed them. We felt by and large incredibly safe, and situations like I said that even seemed a little bit sketchy. Great thing about being in your car, you can just roll out.
Right,
that's what we did. And there's all of these. The other thing about especially Central America, Overlanders aren't ever really far away. You can be as remote as you want or as close to other people as you want. And there were definitely one or two nights we just got in our head and got a little bit, paranoid. And we would just get online. Where's everybody at?
Right.
Can we drive a couple hours and camp with you guys tonight? And there was always somebody within 4 or 5 hours. I'd say that was probably the furthest away that we were from most people, was probably 4 or 5 hours. And we had our little DeLorme InReach satellite phone. And so we could text to Facebook, and we had all these plans. And, you put all these safety nets in place. Right. And, my mom's not a social media person, but I told her on her trip, I made her join the Pan Am Travelers group and turn on notifications, because if nothing else, I knew that from that DeLorme satellite phone, I could post to Facebook. And if I could post to Facebook, then somebody in that group could get in touch with my mom. So there were all these just little things that you had. And there was the app iOverlander. And that was always a great way to find people. And they're all, like we have Women Overlanding the World now, our own Facebook group for women on the road. And that's kind of our own version of the Pan Am Travelers group. That's all women. And that's how we connected with people, was through those groups.
Yeah. And this Overlander has a question about
what site are you guys using to find people nearby? You said the iOverlander app?
Yeah, that's not really how you found where people were. You found where people had been. And so you would get an idea of where campsites and resources were on the iOverlander app, which, I do caution people about that app, only in that it was the best tool we had on the road. I mean, it is frankly a gift to this community.
Absolutely.
But it is incredibly controversial because it also has made all of these campsites very popular places.
Right.
And some of these were wild camp spots or spots in little villages. And as less responsible travelers come through, which there's all kinds on the road, they can become problematic. So we're always very cautious about iOverlander, but it is just ultimately a resource. The other criticism of iOverlander is some people say it has stolen the adventure because you're not out, you have this essentially point by point guide. I disagree with that entirely.
Crazy.
I think that's nuts. Frankly, that app took us to places we would never have thought to go.
Ever.
Right.
Yeah.
because some of the exploration had been done and we got lost half the time getting to places and would find other places. So that was only a resource.
But what, it was Facebook groups mainly, like
Pan Am Travelers Association,
Yep.
Overlanding Central America, Overlanding North America, all those kinds of things. And then, Women Overlanding the World, shows like this. I mean, you just connect to people.
Mhm.
So that was how we did it. And then we just wound our way down through Central America. We got to Guatemala eventually, and that was the first place we gave ourselves really freedom to just stop.
Right.
Which was also an important turning point on our trip, because we started with this got to get there, got to get to whatever the destination is mentality.
Mhm.
By the time we got to Guatemala, things changed a little bit for us, and our dog's health issues reared themselves up again. And at this point, we've been on the road 8 or 9 months.
Mhm.
We were only in Guatemala. So, there's that. But we also really liked Guatemala. I liked it, I think, a little bit more than Karin did at this point, but really liked it. And Gracie, our dog, needed to get surgery. And like I said, that's our kid.
Right.
So she wasn't going to be okay to travel for a little bit. And so we made the tough decision, which ended up being one of the best decisions. We decided to get an apartment in Antigua, Guatemala. And we ended up staying there for almost 5 months.
Yeah, it was wild.
But it was awesome.
Yeah.
We really explored Guatemala in depth. We made a real community of local friends who lived there.
Mhm.
And it's like a second home now.
Yeah, we learned the maze of the market, and we got like a personal trainer. We started getting routines and found.
So I started to get more physically fit and mentally ready, and it was good stuff. And there's this volcano erupting in the background behind you the entire time you're in Antigua. So we did that, and then we met up with friends again in El Salvador, and then we would travel on and off with them all down there. And then when we got to Costa Rica, a couple more countries down the way, Karin just started looking into another thing that I highly recommend to people who want to do long-term travel is house sitting. It is amazing. Kind of hard to get sometimes, but if you're on the road, you've got more flexibility.
Right.
The best way to do it. But she found us this house sit at a mansion in Costa Rica, 5-bedroom, 5-bath with a pool overlooking the ocean in the middle of the jungle for 5 weeks. And all we had to do was clean their pool and take care of their dog.
Yeah, I'd do it in a heartbeat.
Yeah,
it
hardship.
was fantastic. And what a break from the road, right? I mean, and we had some other Overlander friends come up there and hang out with us, and it was great. And so once she started going down that road, we were able to get house sits a few places along the way. And even when we first got back to the States, we got one.
Is that how you guys supplemented your income with all the traveling?
So it was, I'll tell you this, there was a little bit of income supplementing along the way. It is very difficult to see your bank account just depleting day by day.
Right.
For us, because we had sold everything and getting away from work really took a long time. I mean, I honestly, it took about a year, I think, before either of us were actually able to disconnect from work. For us, the game was slowing down the spending more than it was making money on the road.
Right.
We certainly found ways to do that, but house sitting slowed down our spending.
Yeah, we didn't make income from house sitting, but because we didn't have to pay for a place to stay, then
right.
Yeah. We ended up on $50 a day.
Yeah, that was our average. We averaged all in about $50 a day.
That's 2 of us and a dog.
Right. And we knew Overlanders who did it on less than that. I mean, especially couples, and if they were more. We did some Airbnbs, things like that, because frankly, the rooftop tent for 2.5 years does wear on you. So we needed some breaks.
You want a real nice shower with some air conditioning and at least
right.
a bedroom.
And we also wanted to see the cities. For us, it wasn't just about the camping. We also wanted to see the cities. And so we spent time in Mexico City and in Guadalajara and a lot of places that some people just don't go. But we know Overlanders who did it for as little as $10 a day, all in, and people who did it as high as $200 or $300 a day, which would have been an incredible amount of money on the road. But for us, our average all in with gas was $50 a day. Gas was by far the biggest expense all the way around. Land Cruiser's not great on that.
No, I would say I have a 4Runner, and it's with all the weight that I have on it with the reinforced bumpers, and so I get maybe 12 miles to the gallon right now.
That's
Yeah, we got about 11-ish.
Yeah.
Now
it's horrible.
It's terrible. But the other side of it, though, is in Mexico and Central America, I don't think we ever got over 40 miles an hour ever.
Really?
Yeah, that's really the standard rate of travel throughout all of those countries. So that helps quite a bit. And the slower you travel, the cheaper you travel. You know,
Right.
The longer you camp in places, the more time you take. And you have to remember, too, that depending on how early you get up in the morning, you're really only driving a couple hours a day. I mean, really, because you're stopping and getting all set up before dark.
Right.
You know, so you're really not spending as much time just driving as you might think that you are.
Mm-hmm.
But
I'm just trying to picture spending $50 a day and still filling up a tank of gas. Maybe it's just because of gas prices right now with being so high. I just cannot imagine just getting by on that little bit.
Yeah, but if you're not driving far enough each day to require a whole tank.
Right.
I mean, gas, there's no joke. I mean, gas was expensive in Mexico too. It was really expensive, but everything else is so cheap. So gas became your biggest expense, but you're spending pennies on food and pennies on water. And there's not much else that you need outside of food, water, and gas.
Yeah, I think an Airbnb we got was $11 a night.
And that included parking and was incredible. And most campsites in Mexico were between $2 and $5.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
That was awesome.
And then even further in Central America, where they got a little bit more expensive, you're never spending more than $15 a night in a campsite in Central America. So, and like I said, Airbnbs, which down there you can negotiate, very different than up here. So we never paid full price for one down there. We'd see one, we're last minute, we'd email, hey, we're in town, you're not booked. Would you take $11 a night?
Right.
Absolutely. Come on.
Yeah, most everyone did.
Almost everyone.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Right. So, we get all the way down to Panama, and by then we'd been on the road almost 2 years. I mean, a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And we had some decisions to make because originally the plan was to go to Patagonia, and that was the goal. But we had traveled 3 times as slow as what we planned.
Right.
We had expenses like our dog surgery and things that just happen on the road, a broken camera, a laptop with a spilled mojito. Things happen. And so the money goes away and we've spent all this time, and then the car is very beaten up at this point. We were doing so well until one mechanic in Costa Rica, and then car has not been quite the same since then. But so we made this kind of funny decision. We decided not to go south because we were worried we couldn't afford it, that we were running out of time, and that the car wouldn't make it. But we didn't ship home. We decided to drive back. So
completely counterproductive.
Totally. In the time it took us to drive back, we could have gone to Patagonia. I mean, we easily could have, but not the way we wanted to travel. We want to do South America with another year to 2 years. We didn't want to take just a few months to do it. We didn't want to have a different experience than what we had had. And frankly, the way up was amazing because we just did either the places we loved or the places we missed. And we skipped all the places that weren't amazing to us.
Right.
And it was an awesome trip back.
So when do you guys plan on doing South America?
It's on the docket. I mean, it is, we had planned on doing it very quickly, right around the time we were doing the women's trips. And then we had a pandemic and it sidelined us for a while. And, then life happens and you do get back to it. So we did. We kind of got back into our careers and we got back into, day-to-day life. And we bought a house on the river in Nashville. But we have been getting that itch again in a major way. And so we are starting to plan some trips and we're starting to look forward to that. I'm not sure now if we're going to do South America next or if we're going to skip over the pond and do Southeast Asia next.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right. And we've also been talking about maybe Namibia, things like that. I was supposed to go to Nepal last month with Christoph Knoll and his group that goes and does overlanding out there, but they ended up scheduling. And so maybe I'll go in October. And we're going to do a little 3-week New England and Canada trip this fall. So we're easing back into the road. We're just trying to decide what we're going to do about the Land Cruiser. It's our baby. It's very sad to see it sitting in the driveway, not doing what it is built to do.
Right.
At the same time, we're always a little bit jealous of our friends with indoor space. So we've been weighing that out.
So have you guys thought about maybe doing some local events? I know that there's one in October in Tennessee, something river. I cannot remember what it's called now. But like here in Kansas, there's one coming up here next month, or actually it's this month because today's first, next weekend, and it's still open, but it's just a huge community of overlanders going out and camping. And if you guys still have some of your gear left that you need to get rid of, there's apparently they're allowing you guys to sell it there at your campsites, and basically like a big giant swap meet.
Oh,
It's
that's
going to be
cool.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to check that one out. So I will say that the overlanding events have kept us going a lot the last few years. I mean, of course, we've all gone to Expo, but Northwest Overland Rally is really near and dear to my heart. That's usually where we meet up with all our friends who really did the trip. You know, and we actually get together with a lot of the people who we met on the road. We've spent a lot of time with Rich and Ashley. They became really good friends, and Taylor Polly. I mean, there's a lot of meetups that we do with people, because one thing about being home, you know, you have this incredible experience that is unlike any other, you know, and you probably know, you know, we wrote a book about the women that we met on the road. And you come back and there is a small expectation, especially when you've had, I think, a blog and an Instagram like ours. I mean, it had some mild popularity, and, you know, we had a bunch of people that we interacted with regularly, and you come home and you think you're going to be rock stars when you get home, you know, because even on our way back, we stopped at Overland Expo and we stopped Northwest Overland Rally, and we were, you know, people have been following our trip and they recognized the vehicle, and we could tell all these stories by the campfire, and we're with people, and it was so exciting. And you come home and you want to share this experience with all your friends, and all it is these glazed over looks who will never understand what you've just done or why it's so special. And when it's so far removed from what they could see doing themselves, it's hard to engage. It really is. And that was hard to deal with when we got home, which is part of why we love doing things like this. I mean, you know, I'm looking at the comments that you've got here, and people get it. You've got people paying attention to the show who get it, who understand what these things are like, and that has kept us going. And those events are they're what keep us, I think, a little bit sane until the next trip.
Well, I'll send you the information about the one next weekend. It's called Big Iron, and but yeah, I'll send you the info. I'm going to be there. I'd love the chance to actually meet you guys face to face, hear more about your travels, and so tell everybody about the book, because I know a little bit about it, but not everybody does.
So, you know, it's we usually don't really promote it much, which we're not very good at it, but it's beautiful. It is. We're really proud of it. You know, I told you before we left, we had all of this anxiety, and it wasn't just ours, but it was mainly because we were women. And I'm a little sad to say it, but that was the base of all of the danger signals we got. My mom was convinced we were getting sold into trafficking. My grandmother was convinced we were going to come home in pine boxes. Everyone said to us, you can't do it. It's not safe for two women. You're not strong enough. You know, all the things. And we get on the road, and frankly, way more women travelers out on the road in Central America than men. Far more female solo travelers and people with kids than there were solo men on the road. And as we're meeting them and we're hearing these incredible stories, we just started talking. We're like, we've got to compile this. Has anyone ever put together a book of all of these women who are on the road right now? And I don't mean women who've done it over 100 years history. I mean the women out there right now.
Right.
And we did it. And we reached out and we formed the Facebook group. And all of a sudden we were connecting to all of them. And we just started asking, hey, would you guys share your stories and your photos with us for this? And so we've got this book that includes photos and travel stories from 50 of the women that we met who travel worldwide. And they have traveled in everything from scooters to bicycles to Land Cruisers, some with their husbands, some on their own, some with kids, every inch of the globe. And frankly, I'm incredibly proud of what we put together. It's called I Can, I Will, Women Overlanding the World. It's on Amazon, and it's on our website at VagaBroads.com. And it's also at WomenOverlandingTheWorld.com. Yeah. WomenOverlandingTheWorld.com is really about the Costa Rica trips that currently are suspended. So I'd go to our website or to Amazon to check it out.
I saw it on your website. I haven't bought it yet, but it's on my list of books to buy.
We'll send you a copy.
Perfect. Just sign it for me.
I'll give your listeners a little tip. It is cheaper on Amazon than it is on our website. So,
I love the honesty there. You're just like, just go to Amazon. Just go to Amazon.
Just do it. Yeah. We, I'll tell you why, and then I know we got to wrap it up. But right before the pandemic, we actually got a deal with REI, and they were going to carry our book in all their stores nationwide. So we got a big order of them, and then the pandemic happened, and they stopped doing any buying whatsoever.
Yeah, they closed their stores completely.
Right. And shut down all of their buying. So we got a lot of books. So, and that's just part of it. We sold a lot of books. We have a lot of books. We will have them forever, but we are happy to send you a book.
I would love to have a book. Definitely autograph it for me. Donald with Overland Anglers is asking if he can get an autograph copy for his wife too. How he can go about buying it.
Donald, shoot me a message on Facebook, either at VagaBroads through there or through me, Sunny Eaton, and we'll get you hooked up.
And say, or just tell me and I'll do it.
Yeah.
Looks like Ashley has a big list of new guests for Women Wednesday. Oh, yeah, definitely have all 50 come on. That would be epic.
They've got incredible stories, and some of them have been doing this a lot longer than we have.
Yeah, incredible. Ladies.
I love it. Well, I can't thank you guys enough. I still have so many more questions, so you guys know I'm going to be texting you again, Sunny.
Please do. I'm sorry I talked so much. I didn't give you a chance.
No, you. No, I love it. It's been so much fun. I haven't had a show the last few weeks, so you definitely helped ease me back into it. So thank you so much. Alex is saying great show. I've had a blast with you guys. Definitely have to have you back on. I'm going to send you the information about Big Iron. I'd love for you guys to come out, hang out with us, hang out around the campfire, and tell some more of your stories.
Sounds good. We can tell them forever. Thanks so much, Ashley. Really appreciate it. It was good.
You're welcome.
Nice meeting you guys.
Nice to meet you guys. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.